Chapter 23 20 Moon Landing Plan 1. The meeting was jointly initiated by three forces, and the host of the meeting was Zhang Yi's right-hand man, the talented military strategist Yang Xinxin, who is known as the Queen Mother of the West. She stood up, walked to the podium in the conference center, and began to speak. I won't go into detail about what happened. You can see it if you look up. If a piece of lunar debris with a diameter of 100 kilometers were to fall anywhere on the surface of this planet, it would repeat the disaster that ended the dinosaur era hundreds of millions of years ago. Most of the humans on the planet will die, and this time, the impact will be even more terrible than the last one. Even if we hide in the underground world, we will not be able to escape. The culprit for the catastrophe that caused the extinction of the dinosaurs was an asteroid with a diameter of only 10 kilometers. The atmosphere at the scene was extremely solemn. Yang Xinxin continued, Now, no one party can resolve this crisis independently. No matter what conflicts we've had in the past, we must unite now. Let's find a solution together. After the suggestion was put forward, no one at the scene raised any objection. However, from a distance, a representative from Silla, a powerful man with an ability index of up to 9,900 points, raised a question. But Miss Queen Mother of the West, how exactly are we going to do this? That's the moon being shattered. With our current level of technology, can we stop it? Yang Xinxin said calmly, the moon wouldn't shatter for no reason. However, I'd like to let the representatives of Colombia and the Jun Jing Church explain the reason for this incident to you. Only the first and second-rate forces know about the existence of the Druk God clan. Small countries are not qualified to know about their existence. They always felt that the world was peaceful and nothing special happened. After Yang Xinxin stepped down from the stage, she gestured towards Colombia. Soon a tall figure walked onto the stage. He was a very burly man, 2 meters tall, with a standard square face, neatly combed hair, and a tailor-made suit that fit him perfectly. But from the expensive watch on his wrist, the ancient antique ring on his finger, and the rare metal necklace faintly visible between his collar, one can smell the scent of money from him. This is very puzzling after all. In this era, money has no meaning anymore. The president of the Natural Science Association, codenamed Adam Smith, loves money so much, which may be related to his personal habits or abilities. Benjamin Morgan walked up to the podium and put his hands on the edge of the stage. As soon as he came on stage, he revealed a secret. A century ago, when Columbia first landed a man on the moon, we discovered traces of aliens on the far side of the moon. As soon as these words were spoken, the whole audience was in an uproar. Over the past century, only 2 countries have truly completed manned lunar landing missions, Colombia and Huashu. Of course, other countries that claim to have completed the moon landing included Beach, a peninsula country next to Silla, and Barada, an old neighbor of Huashu Kingdom. However, they only claim to have completed the moon landing without providing any strong evidence, so the scientific community generally does not recognize it. What Benjamin Morgan said at this time was equivalent to telling everyone that they had discovered the beginning of the matter 100 years ago. And they may have been studying things about the moon. Morgan shrugged. Of course, aliens and the like are what we used to call them. In fact, our contact with outside civilizations was very early. So, strictly speaking, they should also be a civilization that originated on this planet. However, like those underground civilizations, they hid on the moon to escape certain special rules. That's why our planet has such an unusually large satellite, with only one side always facing us. He summed it up in one sentence. That's a super ancient prehistoric civilization. After he finished speaking, he used a projector to project some photos in the air. Some of them are very old, taken by astronauts' cameras 100 years ago, and some are brightly colored, obviously new photos they took later. In those photos, people saw something very shocking. In the black and white photo, the huge spacecraft lies quietly on the uneven lunar surface like a small hill. And among the hazy shadows, people saw humanoid creatures. Zhang Yi took a deep breath and said, These are no longer secrets now. They have seen all sorts of incredible things and civilizations. On the Columbia side, The winter goddess Morana folded her arms and asked coldly, "So you Colombians already knew what's happening now, right?" Morgan shook his head. "Ms. Morana, do you think Colombia's technology is advanced enough to predict the future? In fact, we are just observing, and our civilization is far inferior to the civilization on the moon. I can only say that the changes on the moon must be related to the ancient civilization on its home planet." He spread out his hands and said with a somewhat relaxed expression, "If it's a natural disaster, then people might feel hopeless. But if it's man-made, then I think there's still room for recovery." Zhang Yi understood what Morgan meant. "You mean to say that everything is caused by the actions of the moon people? If we can find them and ask them why the moon's surface is cracking, we can prevent this disaster?" Morgan nodded. "Right now, this seems to be our most effective method. If we can resolve this through communication, it will be much easier than trying to blow up the debris in advance, right?" Zhang Yi held his chin and nodded slowly. "But you have communication with the ancient civilization on the moon?" Benjamin shrugged. "That would be strange. But this point." He spoke halfway when he looked at the people from the Jun Jing Church. The Pope himself was too old and did not come in person, so his favorite minister Wiggins was his representative. Zhang Yi and others all looked in the direction of Wiggins. They were very curious. The people of the Jun Jing Church actually have connections with the civilization on the moon? Benjamin narrowed his eyes and said meaningfully, "We've been investigating the moon for nearly 100 years and discovered a secret. They have a long-standing secret connection with the Jun Jing sect in the human world. The moon people are probably the angels they're talking about." Chapter 23-21 Moon Landing Plan 2. Benjamin's words were like dropping a bomb on the scene. Everyone immediately started talking.
"What?
People from the Jun Jing Church are actually connected to the ancient civilization on the moon. Is this true or not? I always feel that this statement is too unbelievable. Let's see what they say. If that's the case, maybe we can solve this big problem." Wiggins walked up to the podium in front of everyone without changing his expression. "He's right. The Jun Jing Church has always accepted the divine domain from the moon." These words directly confirmed Benjamin's words. Zhang Yi looked at Wiggins, and his eyes became sharp. What secrets does this mysterious, ancient sect hide? In the process of interacting with them, as Zhang Yi got to know more about the Jun Jing sect, his fear of them gradually deepened. It seems that their sect is hiding some huge secret and is very dangerous. It was precisely because of this that when the Jun Jing sect tried to win him over, Zhang Yi rejected them. "Now stop hiding it, or we'll all be crushed to death by moon fragments. Tell us everything you know," Zhang Yi said coldly. Wiggins glanced at Zhang Yi, his eyes full of arrogance and even a hint of contempt. "Others may not know what exactly happened, but don't you, Chaos, know it? You really can't imagine it?" He emphasized his tone and asked word by word. Zhang Yi stared at him and asked, "You're the one speaking now. Is there any need to keep it a secret?" Wiggins raised a sneer at the corner of his mouth. "As many of you imagine." He raised his hand and pointed high towards the sky. "In the sky, that huge moon is floating. It's not a satellite of a planet. It's a giant seal." As soon as these words were spoken, the eyes of world-class masters such as Zhang Yi, Benjamin, Morana, and Emperor Shirtian all became solemn. Sealed within it is the second generation of life, created by the gods in this world, one of the 7 indelible life forms, Samel, the sin of wrath.
Wow.
There was a sudden burst of heated discussion at the scene. The people from those small countries had no idea about the secrets of the Druckers. When they heard it for the first time, they were confused. The first and second-rate forces were not too surprised by this, but the expressions of those who had been to the Devil's Eye and sealed Mammon, the sin of greed, were particularly solemn. The sleeping super-demon god almost killed them all there. Now that things have just calmed down, a second one has appeared on the moon. This era really seems to be the legendary awakening era. It was these gradually awakening Druk gods that brought the end of the world to the 6th generation. They really don't want to face that terrifying existence again. If there is even the slightest flaw in the seal, The giant god Drucker only needs to recover even a trace of his will to wipe them all out in an instant. Wiggins was very satisfied with everyone's reaction. He looked at everyone with a smile, especially at strong men like Zhang Yi, Benjamin, King Arthur, and so on. Everyone, I wonder if you're satisfied with this news. Are you willing to embark on another journey for the fate of all mankind? Zhang Yi had many questions in his mind, so he said directly, the Jun Jing Church has long-standing ties with the civilization on the moon. You'd better explain the exact nature of your relationship. And what caused this lunar rift incident? King Arthur also said in a deep voice, this concerns the fate of all mankind. I hope that the people of the Jun Jing Church will not hide anything. Indra and others also expressed the same opinion. If the Jun Jing Church dares to remain silent at this time, it will inevitably cause public outrage. Wiggins said calmly, why are you so anxious? The teachings of the Jun Jing Church are also about fighting for the fate of all mankind. After he finished speaking, he raised his hand and tapped lightly in the air a few times. In the virtual space, pieces of information were transmitted to the hands of everyone present. This contains all the information you wish to know. It is all we can provide. As for why something strange happened on the moon and what caused it, we have no idea. Zhang Yi sat together with Yang Xinxin, Zhou Qier, and others, and everyone lowered their heads to carefully check the information. The information was too complicated and gave Zhang Yi a headache, so he simply stopped reading it and waited for Yang Xinxin to interpret it for him. Yang Xinxin read 10 lines at a glance and quickly finished reading the complex information. She has a photographic memory, and her reading speed is comparable to the legendary quantum reading method. After reading it, a meaningful look appeared in her eyes. Xinxin, what does it say? Zhang Yi asked. Yang Xinxin looked at the puzzled crowd and explained, according to the information, the ones existing above the sky are actually the 4th generation of the Yihuan tribe. As everyone knows, when each generation of humanity dies out, the creator Kagawu will select a portion of the fire seeds and grant them the mission of supporting the next generation of humanity. This kind of intergenerational transmission is not passed down from one generation to the next. So the 2nd generation can also cultivate the 4th and even 5th generations. According to the Jun Jing Church, the current 6th generation of humans has different angels. She thought for a moment and then said, if nothing unexpected happens, the angels of our Huashu nation's generation are the 5th generation, the reptilian dragons. As for the European race, some of their angels are 4th generation Yihuan people. Zhang Yi listened attentively, then couldn't help but ask, isn't it said that the Yihan Protoss that split away from the moon still exists? Yang Xinxin said, if we follow what the Vatican says, it's highly likely that the 4th generation of the Yihuan people were bred by the Yihan people who went to the moon. The Yihan people on the moon, let's call them the moon people. Their mission is to seal the Drux Samel. The Jun Jing Church, on the other hand, worships the creator god Kagawu. So for them, sealing the 7 deadly sins is also their mission. Because of this shared belief in mission, they have been guided by the moon people since ancient times. This is the connection between them. Yang Xinxin's eyes were as deep as obsidian, and she thought of many things. No wonder. The stories about the birth and death of the world recorded in the holy scriptures of the Jun Jing Church. I originally thought they were predictions and recollections by people with time-related abilities, but now it seems they are all knowledge passed down to them by the moon people. Chapter 23-22 Moon Landing Plan 3. Zhang Yi finally got the information. He immediately looked at Wiggins on the stage and asked, besides that, there's no clear explanation of what went wrong with the seal. What's the status of Samel, one of the 7 deadly sins? Is there any danger of his seal being broken? Also, will that huge crack cause debris to fly onto the surface of the planet? Of course, Zhang Yi knew that it was not a natural phenomenon. The moon has natural gravity, so generally speaking, it won't have such a big crack on it, and it won't fly towards the planet for no reason. Unless some extremely terrifying power erupts inside it and blows it away. And it is obvious that the sealed place is right below the gap in the moon. Wiggins remained indifferent as he spoke. We don't know that either. The angels on the moon are beings we revere. They will give us oracles, but we can't demand intelligence from them endlessly. We have communicated with them about this incident, but have not received a definite response. Zhang Yi's expression became even more serious. So they're already overwhelmed, aren't they? An angry look suddenly appeared on Wiggins' face. Chaos. Please show due respect to our angels. Zhang Yi leaned back in his chair and said nonchalantly, It's just an ancient civilization with a long history. It's already this time, and you're still using the same tactics you used against believers. Do you think I'll believe it? Zhang Yi had personally come into contact with the second-generation gods and the third-generation demon gods, so, of course, he would not take the fourth-generation Yuan people seriously. Wiggins looked angry, but he remembered his mission on this trip. It was not a good choice to go against Zhang Yi, who was now in the limelight. He could only take a deep breath, glare at Zhang Yi fiercely, and then walk off the stage. The three parties who convened the meeting have finished speaking, and now it is time for free discussion. They have to decide in a short period of time how to deal with the changes in the moon, because this will determine the future of all mankind. Small countries have the loudest voices because they are afraid. Because once a disaster occurs, they neither have enough ability to leave the surface of the planet nor have the ability to build a safe shelter deep underground. Unless they can build a huge and solid shelter at least 10,000 meters underground, they will not be able to withstand such an impact. The scene was noisy, and Zhang Yi and others were also absorbing the information they had just received. At this moment, an old man slowly stood up from a corner of the venue. His face was electronically blurred, making it look like a mosaic. But through his exquisite dress, meticulously combed hair, and the way he walks, people can realize that he is a veteran with extraordinary identity and status. He stood up and walked to the center of the meeting room, then slowly began, Everyone, there is no time to think now. The crisis of extinction could come at any moment, and while we may seem to have room for discussion, we actually have no choice. He raised his head and looked at the empty sky. Land on the moon, find the source of the change, and solve it. This is the only thing we can do. Soon, Zhang Yi recognized the man's identity. Although he had never seen this person, he often heard of him. The current president of the Tong organization, the 33rd level Supreme Inspector. His name is a mystery, but to the outside world, the people in the Tong organization have always called him Mr. Montesquieu. This is the name of a famous ancient philosopher, so it is difficult to determine whether it is his real name. But in recent decades, he has absolutely held enormous power and is a godlike figure in the eyes of countless elites. Although the Tong organization is not as large as the Jun Jing Church, its influence is probably not much weaker. After all, the people in this organization are all elites from all walks of life. Politicians, wealthy people, actors, scientists. The tentacles of the pupil organization are spread all over the world. Montesquieu's speech gradually calmed down many people. There is no point in panicking and arguing. The moon in the sky will not change, it will to fall into pieces because of the decision made in their meeting. Landing on the moon is the only option. Back in Colombia, Benjamin Morgan straightened his suit and said calmly, I agree with Mr. Montesquieu. We must go to the moon and investigate the source of this catastrophe before we can decide how to save humanity. Most of the first and second-rate forces attending the meeting did not raise any objections because they had no better choice. But some people still raised questions. Because with the current level of science in the world, although it is possible to send people to the moon, it is a fantasy to expect people to move on the moon like they would on the surface of a planet and also have to deal with various possible crises. Even a strong person at the level of Epsilon would become extremely weak if he went to the surface of the moon due to the difference in air pressure, lack of oxygen, weightlessness, and other problems. Morgan said calmly, We've already made preparations for this. If we want to go to the moon, we have the best space suits that can help people adapt to the lunar environment. So, he said with a confident expression, placing his hands on the table, I hope that other countries can assist us in completing this moon landing mission. The corners of Zhang Yi's mouth curled up with a hint of teasing. Morgan's subtext is that they, the Fremons, will lead this operation. However, probably no one expected that Zhang Yi had already mastered the technology of the two major civilized countries, the Songyuan tribe and the Wulwan Empire. Those three super battleships were originally capable of sea, land, air, and space. Back then, the Songyuan clan also attempted to conquer the stars and the sea. Eventually, they even left the solar system and colonized the outside world. If they had not discovered that the entire universe is like a petri dish and only the area around the planet is safe, they would have blossomed and borne fruit throughout the universe long ago. Zhang Yi then said calmly, "Our Huaxi nation also has the conditions to independently land on the moon. We can then carry powerful aliens from some countries, but we will need you to provide some energy materials." When the people around heard the representatives of the two superpowers speak in this way, they had a better impression of Zhang Yi. After all, how much fuel does a spacecraft need? Morgan looked at Zhang Yi deeply and didn't say much. He just secretly wondered what the current level of technology in Huaxi country had reached. After a meeting, the trip to the moon was decided. The minimum qualification to travel to the moon is for aliens at the Epsilon level. As for the specific action plan, it needs to be discussed within 7 days.